Are you tired of spending too much of your hard-earned money at the supermarket? Are you dreaming of farm fresh eggs, homegrown veggies, and homemade everything? Well, welcome to Ditch the Store, where we break free from supermarket dependence and take back control of our food and household essentials. I'm CJ, and I'm here to show you that life is too short for store-bought eggs. So let's get started. G'day everyone. Oh, bit croaky today. G'day everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ditch the Store. We are on episode 176, and today we're talking about your spring Ditch the Store plan. I want it to start today. And for those in the Southern Hemisphere, you should be listening to this around August. I'm going to say August 20, I think. I try and batch record. So I do record at the beginning of the month kind of thing. But it should be around August 20. This one is coming out. And so you should be really starting to plan for that spring period that we're coming into. For those of my friends that are over in the States, apologies, you're heading into autumn. I feel sorry for you, although you've probably had a lovely and very fulfilled summer. And hopefully when you go into your your autumn months, it'll be a lot of preserving, a lot of packing and storing produce and getting ready for that downtime over winter, which would be lovely. So what I want you to think about, and I'm just going to hit this out there and then I'll give you a quick update on the farm, is that spring success does not start with buying seedlings. It starts with planning what you're actually going to stop buying. And I think that is the most important part of it. But before we get into that, I'll go into what's happening in the farm. So around the farm at the moment, we have got Loki growing up a storm. If you haven't seen our beautiful new Anglo Nubian buckling, then jump onto Mojo Homestead on any of the socials and you'll see pictures and videos of him there. The handy helper and I are cracking into getting some fencing done for him so that he has some beautiful big paddocks to roam in with his paddock buddy Doogie, who's our hand-reared little wether that we unfortunately was orphaned at the beginning of last milking season. And kids are just winding down from sport. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever been so glad to see the end of the sports season. My kids play rugby and league, so rugby union and rugby league, over the winter months here in Australia, which is, I think, standard for everywhere. And they're coming down that tail end of it. But I have one child in year 11 and one child in year 9. And for those in Australia, you know that the year 9 one might be a little bit important. It's not the most important. But year 11 is hard. It's hard work. And MJ, she's working a little butt off. She's got a job. She's doing a Cert 3 in sport and rec and teaching swimming to little kids. And she comes home and tells me all the time about how kids in her swimming classes don't listen. And I have to laugh and go, really? Can't imagine kids not listening. Anybody that is a parent out there would understand exactly the sarcasm in my voice. Anyway, we're winding down for the sporting season, which will be great. And we are getting ready for spring. And I think I mentioned it last week. The bees were buzzing. We've had a lot of bee activity, and I haven't been able to get into my hives for over a year now because of my injuries. So I'll be so glad to get back into the hives again. So that's where the farm is at the moment. We are tearing into spring at a rate of knots. Now, what I said before is 100% true. Your gardening success this spring is not going to start with what seedlings you buy. It's going to start with what you decide to stop buying from the supermarket. And I think that's the most important bit that you can go into your spring growing season thinking about. Certainly for us, that's been the case. Handy Helper and I have both been on a very big health kick of late, which has been fantastic. We've lost a little bit of weight. We both feel a lot better. More impressively, his snoring has stopped, which for anybody out there who's got a snoring partner, you would sympathise with me on what that feels like. His snoring has completely stopped, like in the space of 2 weeks, just gone from pretty regular to nothing at all. And it's all down to a keto, carnivore kind of diet, lifestyle. If you're in any doubt, go and check out a guy called Eddie Abdu, I think that's how you pronounce his surname. He's on YouTube. He's all over YouTube. He talks about insulin resistance particularly in people who, as they get older, they become more insulin resistant. And both of us kind of looked at it and went, holy shit, that's us. So we have started eating so much less of the crap that we would buy from the supermarket anyway. We are eating basically green leafy vegetables, meat, eggs, fish, cheese, nuts, and that's pretty much it at the moment. That's all we're eating. And we're not eating too much of some of those things, like the cheese and the nuts are, we're still having milk, but only at certain times during the day. We're not overloading our system with sugars because milk is a sugar. It's a form of sugar. Lactose is a form of sugar. So we're trying to cut down on all the sugars going into our system to get our insulin back to normal. And leafy greens are a great way of doing that because you can bulk up a meal with broccoli, cauliflower, with baby spinach. I hate to say it, kale, which I would never eat because I hate kale. I just can't stand the taste of it. Bok choy, all the Asian greens. We bulk up our meals with those and meat and eggs. And no noodles, no rice, no pasta, none of that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of people kind of head into this spring growing season with a huge amount of enthusiasm for all the things they're going to grow, but they try to buy too much and plant too much and end up with a garden that looks really busy but out of control, and it doesn't really change any of their supermarket spending. And what I want you to start thinking about is what's going to be the most impactful towards your supermarket spending, and not trying to replace the whole supermarket. There is really no point in trying to replace the whole supermarket. What I think you need to do is just try and start with 5 things. Pick 5 things and then at least start with one of them. So, and I know that probably seems counterproductive. You think, well, if I thought of 5 things, why can't I go all of them? But just start with one to start with. And then once you've got a handle on that, then you can add the other one. Now, I have been guilty of it where I have absolutely bought way too many seedlings, and seedlings that we didn't even eat. The kids aren't fans of capsicum. So I grew capsicum the first year I was gardening, and the kids looked at me and went, well, we don't like capsicum. I'm like, oh, well, but I put capsicum in bolognese and I put capsicum in stir fry and I put capsicum in other things. And they're like, yeah, but we really don't like it that much. And so in the end, I just went, why am I growing it? There's no point growing something that your family's not going to eat. Like I said before, Handy Helper and I, we're in a lot of leafy greens at the moment. So this year is going to be really strong for me on the Asian greens because there's something that is so quick and easy to add to a meal. So that's probably where we're going to go. And instead of drowning in something that I'm not going to use, I'm going to aim for something that I absolutely am going to use, and hopefully I'm going to get the most out of it. And, don't beat yourself up if you've done it in the past, or if you've already bought seedlings for something and you look now and go, shit, I probably shouldn't have done that because my family doesn't even enjoy eating that. Don't stress about it. If you have chooks, best case scenario is if you're not eating it, you can cut it and give it to the chooks, or let the chooks come in at the end of the season and go hell for leather on eating down any plants that you've got left in your garden. That's probably a really more efficient way of cleaning the garden out because they'll come in, they'll fertilise because they shit all over the garden. They'll fertilise the garden at the same time as they're eating any of the scraps or anything left in the garden that you don't want. So, that all being said, the first thing you need to do is choose your 5 supermarket items. Now, I want you to sit down and it's really hard if you don't have a regular kind of list that you go by. I am a list maker. I love making lists for going shopping. I love having a meal plan kind of written out for at least the next 5 days or so before I go anywhere near a supermarket. I used to, before the Handy Helper and I were doing our health kick, I used to just leave a couple of days to, by chance. Thursday nights are always our hell night because the kids, one has work and one has air cadets. So it's always hard to kind of manage dinner on that night. So what we've been doing since our health kick is the kids are still getting their takeaway, but I have restricted them to sombreros or Subways or something that's a little bit less deep fried McDonald's kind of crap and more leafy greens and meats, and they're still eating their breads, they're still eating their carbs. Just because we're not, I'm not restricting them. But healthier choices for their takeaway nights. But it's only Thursday night now that's takeaway night for them. And that's just because we're an hour away from our home for the kids to do those things, and it's just too hard sometimes to pack. That being said, the handy helper and I last Thursday packed steaks cut up into pieces, some chicken wings and some boiled eggs, and we just sat in the car and ate them there in the car. And it worked really well. We felt full, we felt nourished, we stuck to our diet plan, and at the same time, we didn't have to go and buy anything, and we didn't get out the car early to go and do anything. But it's hard to know what to replace at the supermarket if you don't know what you're already buying. So if you're one of those people that just buys random things and you don't have a plan as such, what I want you to do is try and make an effort to do a meal plan up and then have a look at what you're buying on a regular basis. Oh, excuse me. I had an early start this morning. Try and think about what you're buying on a regular basis, and don't just have a look at it when you're doing the shopping kind of thing. Go online to Woolies or Coles online shopping, and you don't have to have an account with them. You don't have to, I think you do have to have an account with them, but you don't have to buy things from them as such. Although, hot tip, if you do have an account with them, it makes it much, much easier to avoid the things you don't need and only buy the things you do need. But go on and have a look at the price of things. When I did the episode last week for $25 worth of seedlings, saving you several $100s worth of groceries, it actually worked out to be more than several $100 when I finalised all of the adding up figures, because I didn't realise how expensive some things were. When I told the handy helper that baby spinach is $49 a kilo, he's like, holy shit, why aren't we growing baby spinach? We should grow baby spinach and sell it at the markets. And I'm like, yeah, we probably should, $49 a kilo. I know baby spinach is light, but that's really expensive. Cherry tomatoes were $29.50 a kilo. We grow cherry tomatoes, piece of piss here. Like, cherry tomatoes grow like wildfire here. You actually have to trim them back a bit. The price of things has gone up, and that's not to be a doomsdayer kind of, at the end of the day, inflation is real and it is happening. And certainly for anybody living in Australia at the moment, they would know that the price of goods is exponentially going up more than what we've been seeing in the last couple of years. But work out what you're actually buying, what it actually costs. So you need to know your figures. I can remember having a conversation a few years back with a friend of mine who was going through a hard time, and she said, I actually don't know how much it costs to run my household. And I'm like, you need to know your figures. It's not being pedantic, it's just being smart about your money. So write down what your family are actually eating, what it's costing you at the supermarket, and then from that list, try and think about what you could grow, raise, or make in your own home, and it's going to be cheaper than buying at the supermarket. So in some cases, it may not be cheaper. There might be things that you buy or use or eat, consume that you can't make cheaper at home. And when I say that, I mean you can't make it cheaper at home when you factor in the startup costs. If you take away the startup costs, just about everything that you get in the supermarket, you're going to be able to do cheaper at home. And that's when we're talking about real food and good food. I'm not talking about, chips, potato chips as in crisps. I'm not talking about those kind of foods. They are hard to make at home, and that's because most of them don't involve a lot of food. Most of them involve a lot of chemicals. And so it's hard to be a chemist in your kitchen when your kitchen revolves around real food. So think about what you could realistically grow, raise and make in your own kitchen. Even things like, does my head in, you can make butter at home. If you have pure pouring cream, you can absolutely make your own butter. And that means you can salt it to the taste that you like. You can have it not salted. You can mix herbs in with it if you wanted. You can break it down into smaller parcels and freeze it so that you're only getting enough butter out to suit your family if you're not using huge slabs of butter. We use a lot of butter here, so I would probably struggle to make enough butter out of the cream that I could buy. Also too, I was still struggling to find 2 litre jugs of pure cream. You can get 1 litre jugs of thickened cream, but I don't like it because it has all those additives in it. So pure cream obviously is a bit different. And in Canberra, we just don't have the, I need to go and find a wholesaler in Canberra that sells it. And then think about also too this, and this is for those of you like me who hate grocery shopping. Think about what's the things that you are most frustrated buying. I hate buying fruit and then having it not get eaten. I hate buying yogurt and having it not get eaten. And I really need to, that's one of the things, and we're not going to have milkers this year, but one of the things for the following year, so for my 2027 milking season, is I want to make my own yogurt, but do it in small batches so that I've always got fresh yogurt, but I'm not having yogurt that goes to waste. Because the kids will go through a yogurt frenzy where they just eat yogurt for like 3 days straight and then they stop for a week. And then they eat it for 3 days straight again, and then they stop for a week. And if you buy the big tubs, which are more economical, the big Chobani tubs at Costco, that's great. But unless the use by date is like 2 months in advance, we're never going to get there. Where the kids are going to stop. They're going to go off their yogurt binge before we get to that point. But some of the examples that I want you to think about, because it's not just fruit and veg we're talking about. So eggs is one that people get really shitty with buying because the cost changes so much. And pasture-raised eggs are expensive for a reason because, somebody's going to a lot more work to raise pasture-raised eggs than cage eggs or barn-laid eggs, which I refer to as the pseudo-caged eggs. Salad greens, definitely salad greens. They're one that's so easy to grow, but it's also more beneficial to grow it because you don't buy a bag, put it in the fridge, use half of it, and then not use the rest of it. And it goes bad, and then the chooks get it, and yeah. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are a great one because they can be preserved in lots of ways. You can dry them, you can can them, you can use them to make tomato sauce, you can use them to, and I mean ketchup tomato sauce, or you can use them to make like pasta sauce, kind of tomato sauce. They don't freeze terribly well, but there's so many other ways you can preserve them. Herbs are so expensive by the bunch. It does my head in how expensive they are to buy compared to how low cost it is. And herbs are a great one. If you're in a house where you're in a rented property where you can't really dig up the backyard, or you're in an apartment or a townhouse and you don't have a lot of backyard, herbs are a great one to grow in pots. Now, depending on where you live, they could be outside year round, but if you're in a really cold climate, you might want to bring them into like a laundry area or under a veranda, or build yourself a little greenhouse off the side of your house that you can put the pots in during winter. But a lot of herbs will grow pre-annually, so they'll keep growing for years to come rather than just growing for 1 year. Coriander I can't get to grow for more than 1 year because it always bolts in summer and goes to seed. So, but herbs are a great one because they're so expensive and it's a good replacement, like the salad greens, where you can just use what you need and leave the plant growing and only take what you have to take. And then you don't have that waste factor in the fridge. Bread, obviously, I love my sourdough. We're not eating sourdough at the moment, but the kids still are. I actually haven't made a batch for them for a while because I wasn't sure that I could control myself and not eat it. But sourdough bread, it's so much cheaper to make it. It costs you about, I would say $1.50, $2 to make it from home. It costs $9 for a good loaf of sourdough at the baker's, which is just insane. Chicken meat. We have obviously previously done our meat birds. I've got my book Brooded to Plate Out that shows you how to raise your own chickens for meat. Now, that's obviously next level kind of homesteady. So for some people living in suburbia, that may not work for you. But if you have a little bit of land or a little bit of space, or you've got very good neighbours who aren't going to be, they're not going to be worried about the fact that you're growing meat birds on your property and kind of ring up the council and start complaining. Meat birds are a great one to grow from home. Jam is another thing that you can do from home. And even if you're not growing enough fruit to do jam, go to the farmers markets last thing on a Sunday afternoon, and the chance of you being able to pick up a couple of kilos of a fruit at a very much reduced price is going to be a lot higher. So jam is something you can definitely do at home. Pickles and sauerkraut and things like that, your fermented stuff, that's one that you can absolutely do at home. And, it's not until you read the back of the jar at the supermarket and you realise how much chemicals are in these things. it sounds great, but like I went to buy kimchi the other day instead of making it and looked at the back of it and I'm like, I'm making it. I'm not buying that. It was so loaded with shit. There was no way I just wanted kimchi. I had a real thing. I was craving kimchi. Kimchi is one of the things that we can eat on our, new way of eating that we're doing. But the list of preservatives and chemicals in it, I was like, it's just fermented cabbage. Like, what the fuck? Honey. Honey is one, again, it's like chickens. It's kind of next level. You need to probably be a bit more committed to the cause before you start going down the beekeeping route. But we've had bees here we had them in Gunning. So we've had bees now for over, it would be 8-9 years I've been beekeeping. And it's the first time ever we're out of honey at the moment in that period of time. And that's because last year I couldn't do the hives because of my leg injury. So it was, I'm really looking forward to getting back into them this summer. And the last one is cleaning products. Cleaning products you can absolutely replace with bicarb soda, a bit of borax, vinegar, and a little bit of know-how, and you can pretty much replace most of your cleaning products. Now, after all of those things that I've just said that you can do, what I want you to concentrate on is not doing things because they sound homesteady. There is no point in growing 20 pumpkins if nobody in your house likes pumpkins. So if nobody ever eats salad greens in your house, don't grow salad greens. If herbs are something you never use for cooking, then there's no point. If it'd be like growing coriander if you don't like coriander. There is just no point doing it. So think about the things that you absolutely use in your house and aim for those. That's going to be the best way of doing it. And if you're not sure still of how to work that out, look at your fridge and say what disappears the fastest from your fridge. What always gets used up and you never have leftover of it? What's something you always complain about buying? For me, it's salad greens. I hate buying them because I know they're going to go bad before they get all eaten because they're sitting in those plastic bags. And I won't buy the little bags because the little bags are so expensive compared to the big bags. So I always buy a big bag and then it ends up going bad. What would you feel proud to stop putting in your trolley? So what's something, and it might be cleaning products. You might be like, no, I want my house to be a greener, cleaner house. So I still want it to be clean. I don't want to, kind of put that aside. I want to keep a clean house, but I hate buying chemicals to use in cleaning products at home. So that might be something that you really feel strongly about getting out of your trolley. And what could you produce in the space that you already have? So there's no point trying to match somebody who has, a huge amount of land if you only have a tiny backyard. So herbs might be a good one to go for. You might be able to keep a beehive in your backyard even if you're on a small suburban block. Bees don't care about the space of land you have because they'll fly around and go and do their pollen collecting everywhere else. So I want you to pick 2 to 3 items and then attach a real cost to it. So for, say, eggs, because we eat a lot of eggs in our house. So if you're buying $15 to $20 worth of eggs per year, that's about, per week rather, that's about $800 a year worth of eggs, which when I say it like that seems like so much. We definitely don't spend $800 a year on our chickens, and we get way more eggs than we could ever eat. I sell my eggs so that it, puts money back into the chicken bowl. 2 bags of salad a week. Look at the big bags, they're $4.50, $5 a bag. Roughly $10 a week. That's $500 a year that you wouldn't be spending because you'd be growing it. Now, yes, through the winter months, depending on where you are, obviously there's times when you are going to have to rely on those supermarkets, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to cut it down to just through the winter months having to rely on the supermarket? I know for us, having had to buy eggs this year because all the girls were molting and we've lost a lot of our hybrid layers, so they're all heritage breeds, and so they had a lot longer molt period. And having to buy eggs was annoying, but I kept telling myself it's only during this season. Once the girls start laying again, everything's going to be fine. But sit down and work out how much it's actually going to save you. Believe me, you will be surprised at how much money and you'll probably be gunning for it once you realise. Now, out of all that, what I want you to do is pick one quick win and one bigger project to aim for. So your quick wins, and it depends on your season of life. Excuse me. It depends on how much time you have already. If you don't have time to do one of the bigger ones, just stick to the quick wins. Sorry, just had to have a sip. Stick to the quick wins if you know that you're not going to have time this spring season. But pick one of these quick wins. So herbs in pots. Now, it can be multiple herbs or only one or two herbs. That is entirely up to you and what your family uses. Like I say, I would grow coriander, but I would be the only one in my family eating it. Everybody else would be turning their nose up at it. Parsley, basil, what else? Rosemary. I want to get a rosemary plant growing. Once I've got those three going, that would cover most of the kind of herbs that we use anyway. Lettuces, any kind of lettuce, baby spinach, any kind of salad, greeny stuff. There's so many different varieties out there. Pick the ones that your family gravitate towards and go with those ones. Radishes grow super, super quick. We're not huge radish eaters here, but I do like them in a salad. So that's a good one. Spring onions, definitely spring onions would be a good win for us. Because like I say, it's one of those ones where I hate the fact that the bunch goes bad in the fridge before I can use all of it. So only picking out of the ground what I need that day, or only chopping. With spring onions, you can just chop the tops off them if you want. Sometimes they grow back. So that would be a big win for me, even though it's a quick win. Homemade cleaning spray. A bit of bicarb, a bit of vinegar, and a bit of water. I'd have to go back and look which episode it was. But I did an episode a couple of months ago on cleaning products and had a recipe attached to that for homemade cleaning products. But pretty much that's all you need in a spray bottle, and that's the equivalent of a kitchen bench wipe. Or a simple bread routine. For most people living in a normal house, and we don't even have a proper stove or oven here. We have a hot plate that's a wood fire one, and we have a small toaster oven, and we have the air fryer, and that's it. But for most people, a simple bread routine is something that they can start even if they don't have any land at all. If you're in an apartment, you could be doing the cleaning product and the bread routine. Super easy. Chuck a couple of herbs in a pot and you've got 3 quick wins. Bigger projects. So these ones need more planning, equipment, and a bit more education around what you're doing because they're a bit more involved. But these are great ones to aim for. And if you could manage one of these this spring, summer season, I think you would be absolutely winner chicken dinner. Chickens for eggs. So having a small coop in your backyard, having chickens for eggs, that's going to be a huge win to the grocery budget if you are a family that consumes eggs like we are. Meat birds. I would love to do meat birds again this year. I don't think we're going to be able to, and I'm going to discuss it in reasons why you should cross things off the list. We lost our freezer last year. It died in the arse completely and had to get taken to the tip. And we don't have a big chest freezer at the moment. So until we get our next chest freezer, having meat birds is problematic because I have nowhere to store it. And we'll discuss that a bit further. Bees. Bees are a great one. Even if you're on a suburban block, you're entitled to have 1 beehive on a suburban block. You do have to register to be a beekeeper in Australia, and that's because of biosecurity. And at the moment, we have issues with varroa mite here in Australia. But there's no reason why you can't keep a beehive on a suburban block. Anybody that says, your neighbours will complain, if your neighbours are growing veggie gardens, they won't complain because their veggies will get pollinated like crazy and all their plants and trees and everything will just go nuts because that's what bees do. They're pollinators. But also too, a little jar of honey, at the end of the summer season, generally placates any kind of issues that a neighbour would have with bees. If they say, we're allergic, blah, 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 90% of people that say they're allergic to bees aren't allergic to bees. They just have had a bad sting that they haven't got out properly. And I will put up a photo of me this week with when I got stung in the eye. I am not allergic. I thought I was as a kid. I had a lot of reactions to bees as a kid. But I think I've kind of grown out of it, if that makes sense. But I got stung in the eye, like below my eye, and you should have seen my face. Oh my God, my whole eye closed. I was so puffed up. It was so uncomfortable. Um, it was insane how bad it was. Uh, but I'm not allergic. And a little bit of Finurgan and a couple of days, and I was getting better. I think it took me about 2 weeks to come down for that one. It was pretty bad, that one. And I've also been stung on the lip, and we joke that it was like Botox. Like I looked like I'd had lip filler done and got all kind of, chunky lips. But that's because I got stung on the face. If I get stung on the hands or the feet or arms or legs, I get no reaction at all. In fact, sometimes I have to kind of struggle to look to see where I got stung because I can't find it after the fact. A preserving garden. So building a garden that's big enough to grow stuff to preserve for winter months. Now that, if you have a larger block, if you're on like an acre, half an acre, 2 acres maybe, then having a preserving garden is going to be awesome. You could go all out and go, I'm going to do tomatoes this year and just preserve tomatoes. You could do cucumbers and do pickles, for the year. You could do corn and make corn relish. A preserving garden is something that you're growing in a bulk amount, and you can have it growing as a bulk amount where you're going to cook it all up in one batch rather than staggering your plants, so that you can and store and preserve. A larger veggie patch, you might have already had a little veggie patch and you want to go bigger. This might be the year for you. An orchard. One of my next things on the list is more fruit trees, because the kids do like some fruits. So, they're both big apple eaters. And we can grow apples here. It's definitely a good area. Grapes, I would love to grow my own grapes. I would love to actually make my own wine, but I've tried that once before and all I made was vinegar. But those two things, I'd love to be able to grow limes and lemons, but we're not really. Lemons will grow here, but limes struggle a bit. I need a hothouse for that. But nuts are my next big one. We grow hazelnuts here really, really well. And what's the other ones? It might be pecans. Hazelnuts. Yeah. And it might be pecans that grow really well here. And that's my next thing on my list, is to grow some nut trees. I think they're great trees to grow anyway because they look pretty and they grow so tall and big. But to be able to get nuts off them would be awesome as well. And the last one is dairy animals. Now, dairy animals is not for the faint-hearted. It's certainly, having dairy goats is something that you need a bit more land, and you also need the very, very firm commitment of a daily routine. So that is definitely on the bigger project list. Now, what I want you to do this year is aim for one quick win and one bigger win, just to see how you go. And what you're trying to do is not become fully self-sufficient before Christmas, but build the skills so that over the next couple of years, if you're adding a small win, a quick win, and a bigger win, in a couple of years' time, you'll notice that you have reduced your shopping list and got to a point where you are supplying your household with a lot of stuff that you weren't previously. I think it's really important too to remember that the quick wins are there for a bit of a confidence boost. When you get, salad greens growing and you don't have to buy any, that's like, woo, I'm good. I'm a homesteader. I'm doing my thing. The bigger projects are more about building future things into place. And, you've got to look at the timeframes as well. Quick wins should be 4 to 5 weeks and you're getting a result. Whereas your bigger projects, 5 to 6 months is not unrealistic to get chickens, learn how to keep chickens, get a coop, get the chickens, get them laying, and actually get to a point where you're getting enough eggs to replace your supermarket buy of eggs. So don't panic if it doesn't happen straight away. Now, a good way to look at it, and I'm probably going to go over in this episode because I've got a few more things I want to mention. A good way to look at it is probably to go work backwards from what you want. So say instead of saying I want to grow tomatoes, say I want enough tomatoes for fresh eating, and I want to be able to can or jar 15 jams of pasta sauce for the next 6 months. It may not replace all of your pasta sauce habit, but if it replaces several months of it, that's still going to be a win. With chickens, instead of saying I want chickens, say I want enough eggs for our household for each week. Now, in order to know how to do that backwards, there's a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. So here's the list. How much do we currently use? How much do I want to replace? because you may not want to replace all of it. You may just want to replace it so that, for a couple of months, you don't have to buy that thing at the supermarket. How many plants or animals might I need to do this? So you have to do your research. Where will they go? What space are you going to use? What garden area? What paddock area? What equipment will I need to do this? What will the cost be to begin? Because there's always a startup cost that's going to be higher than your ongoing costs once you've got started. How will I store the result? That's the important bit. And that's why we're not doing meat chickens this year, because we don't have a freezer to store them in. So you have to be able to store whatever you make. And what skill do I need to learn first? It's no good jumping in and going, I'm going to have dairy animals and I'm going to make cheese if you don't know how to make cheese. If you want to learn to make cheese, buy milk from the supermarket first, make the cheese, make sure you actually enjoy it, make sure you're good at it, make sure you can do it, then worry about getting the dairy animals. So a couple of working examples for that would be salad greens. Say your goal is to stop buying 2 bags of salad greens each week. So what you want to do is grow some lettuce, some rocket, and some baby spinach. Plant a small amount, so 4 to 6 lettuce seedlings, in just a small row in your garden, but then do that every 2 weeks, so that not all at once, so that you have a staggered growth rate. You can use pots, you could use raised beds or small garden strips. Plan for shade when the weather gets too hot, because you don't want everything burning. Make sure you're planning for frost if you live in a frosty area, and keep seeds ready for the repeat planting. So even if you start with seedlings in the first place, get yourself some seeds, and I'm going to put a link into the show notes for Eden Seeds, because Eden Seeds, I think, in Australia are probably the best suppliers of seeds in Australia. So get your punnet from Bunnings, $4.85. We discussed it last week. Get those 6 in, but then buy seeds so that in 2 weeks' time you can put some seeds in, or put the seeds in now maybe, and then in 2 weeks' time you will have seedlings to replace that next lot. The approximate cost, $4.85 for your punnet. I looked up on Eden Seeds before I started recording, $3.90 for 200 seeds for salad greens or lettuces. So 200 seeds will keep you going for a very long time. And it will be paid back within a couple of months. So I'll put the link for Eden Seeds in there because I love them. They have the best seeds. Replacing eggs. So your goal might be to stop buying a dozen eggs a week, or 2 dozen eggs per week, depending on how much you eat. So the plan would be, say, 4 to 6 laying hens, which would typically produce close to 2 dozen, depending, 6, if they're laying 5 eggs a week, then that's 30 eggs a week. 4 chickens would be laying, 20 eggs a week. So 5, 25 eggs a week. So between 4 and 6, you're going to get around that 2 dozen mark per week, once established. Allow roughly 5 to 6 months from day-old chicks to first eggs, depending on the breed, obviously. But if you don't want to wait and you want to get into it this spring, then I would say buy point-of-lay chickens, start planning for that now, and they'll be a bit more expensive, but you don't have all the setup costs. Get your coop ready, get the run ready, get it predator-proof, establish all of your upfront costs. Go pop into your local produce centre and find out how much chicken feed is, how much nesting boxes are, how much water drippers are. We use a big tub for water because our girls are out in the paddock, but water drippers, how much are they? Get it all set up before you actually get your chickens. And factor in too that you may have the occasional vet visit unless it's something that you're competent and you feel like you're comfortable managing on your own. But have a look at those numbers and see what you're going to come out with. I guarantee you it's still going to be cheaper than buying it from the supermarket. Now, trying to hurry through the last couple of bits. Common spring mistakes that people make, and I'll just run through these briefly. You guys know what they mean. Trying to do too much. 5 goals does not mean 5 major projects. Somebody needs to tell me in the handy help of that. Choose one thing to begin with, and if it's one of your big wins, go one only. Don't try and do 2 at the same time. Buying before planning. Don't buy animal, seedling, or equipment until you know what you're doing with them. The worst thing you could do is get chooks, get them home and go, shit, I don't have a coop. Get everything set up before you get the animals. Get your garden bed ready to go, composted, fertilized, covered over, dug up, whatever, before you go to the shop and buy the seedlings. Otherwise, you'll get home, the seedlings will stay in the containers and then they get weedy. And I've done it. They sit there and the next thing they're overgrown in a seedling pot and the roots are bound and you can't do anything with them. Ignoring time. I think I can stretch and bend time. I listen a bit too much to a guy called James Wedmore, who says that time is something that you can move within your own mind. I don't always plan for time very well. A project may fit the property, but it may not fit your current season of life. So if you are too busy, if your kids are too little, if you are got a sick relative you're looking after, if you've been unwell like me with an injured leg, there are times when you just can't get to everything. Just deal with it. It's that season of life, and just remember it won't last forever. Forgetting storage. This is why we're not getting meat birds. Producing food's only half the job. You still need somewhere to store it, freeze it, preserve it, or use it. If you don't have that set up at the other end, then don't bother doing it. Just stick to the things you can deal with. So, only grow what you can eat. Copying somebody else's homestead. Oh, I think most of us have been a bit guilty of trying to, emulate somebody else. I'm never going to be a, what's the butterfly farms? No, ballerina farms. I'm never going to be that. I don't walk around in a Laura Ashley dress. I walk around in trackies and gumboots. What works on somebody else's farm won't necessarily work on yours, and it may not even suit yours. If you're on a suburban block or a small acreage or a really busy family, then somebody else's farm lifestyle may not suit you. And the main thing is that the best plan is not the biggest one. It's the plan that you can follow. That is the best one to follow for you. The best plan is the one that you can follow. Now, what I want you to do to try and get around those mistakes that people make is write down 5 things that you want to do and then cross 4 of them off and come back to them next season and just pick one and make sure it ticks all those other boxes first. If you can't preserve it, freeze it, or eat it within a week, don't grow it because it'll go bad. And that's why we're not doing chickens, but also why we're going to do leafy greens, because leafy greens are something that we're going to be eating on a very, very regular basis as we change our lifestyle a bit. Now, the last one I wanted to talk to you about was a 5-day challenge. Now, I am planning to do a 5-day challenge in, I think, the end of September I had it planned for, and I will start advertising it shortly. But what I want you to start thinking about, because those of you that are listening to the podcast will be the kind of people who are ready to go on a 5-day challenge kind of thing. And even though I have my upcoming 5-day challenge, and I'd love you to jump on board for that, if you're on my mailing list, you'll be fine. You'll get it. If not, go do the quiz, the Ditch the Store quiz, and then you'll give me your email address. You'll be on the mailing list and you'll know when the 5-day challenge is coming up. But this is what the 5 days are going to involve. Choosing the supermarket items that you most want to replace. Day 2 is going to be picking the best spring project for your space, time and budget. So being realistic here. Day 3 is going to be setting a clear result. How many eggs, how many meals, how many jars, how many weeks of produce do you want to grow? Day 4 will be working out supplies, jobs and skills that you need to do those things. And day 5 will be taking your first physical step. So actually clearing the bed, ordering the seeds, repairing a gate, fixing a fence, getting a milking bale set up, checking preserving equipment. That'll be day 5. Now, I want people to finish the challenge and not be vague about what they're aiming for. I want you to focus on just one thing out of that challenge and then focus on getting that job underway. And for me this year, it's definitely the veggie garden. So I'm going to be putting out some things over the next couple of weeks that will be leading towards that 5-day challenge, including some cheat sheets, some checklists, things that you need to go through. Like I say, if you want to be involved or notified of the challenge, make sure you're on my mailing list, which is if you go to www.ditchthestore, all one word, .com/DTS score. That will take you to the quiz and you can see what your Ditch the Store score is. And then once you've done that, there'll be a little thing saying, here, put your email address in and I'll send you a newsletter once a week, and you'll also get notified when the Ditch the Store challenge is coming out. Oh, okay. I think I made it just over 40 minutes. Woohoo! Yay for me. I didn't think I was going to get there. There was a lot to go through. So I don't know who else is excited about spring, but because I am a bit more mobile now and I'm starting to get to the point where I can move around without my crutches, which is lovely to be in that place. I can't wait to get into spring, having had 10 months of not being able to do pretty much anything other than stuff around the house. And I hope you are too. Also too, next week, I'm hoping I will have some super, super exciting news for you next week. And I'm working like crazy. I hate the fact that I work a full-time job and I work 10-hour shifts. So over the next 3 weeks, I have 15 10-hour shifts. I'll be doing 150 hours out of the home over the next 3 weeks. Oh, it makes my head hurt. Anyway, hopefully this spring is going to be awesome, and I hope yours is too. That's it for this week, and I will talk to you all again next week. Bye for now. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ditch the Store. If you're loving the journey to self-sufficiency, be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a review for us or share this episode with a friend who's ready to break up with their supermarket. If you've got questions or success stories, we'd love to hear about them on the socials. You can also find me at www.mojahomestead.net. Until next time, keep raising, growing and making. And remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.